sono saltati un paio di interviste. Sono avanti. Il mistero non viene.
Perché oggi chi era?
Perché sto trafficando per abusivi.
Il mio carissimo amico.
Buongiorno.
Perfettamente italiano. Lui è...
Sei svegliato? Non mi vedi? No, era... Dai. Sei tirato in troppo.
Era presente per la...
Posso parlare?
Io
sono preparato, parlo anche di nere.
Ma io ve l'ho saputo che devo parlare, cioè. Devo dire che sì, anche... Perché sei concerto con il concerto riguarda la pilota e loro... No, come ha? Io sto rispondendo di aprile.
Sì, infatti l'altra volta me l'ha detto, cazzo, loro appena avevo avuto ha raccontato un po' di regretti, perso scuola di con modalità che era l'equivalente della nessuna
Hai visto? Va bene, un po' pallosa. Ma quello infatti difficile. Non è chiaro.
no, io conviene perché era
Perché noi non abbiamo spese, le facciamo da parte in dicembre, noi non abbiamo spese reali, perché noi le spese i costi diretti reali, non i diretti reali, ne abbiamo solo le assicurazioni, non è un viaggio. Ma se ci metto tutte le missioni nella prima tranche, poi diventa una cifra così alta che il Mazan si dimette e viene a fare il mio lavoro. Su questa tranche qua, allora no, devi dividere in 4 fasi. La prima che è la soddisfazione in cui abbiamo la seconda è la sia 2 in cui abbiamo questa divisa in creazione di cui questa qua. Se già ci pensi che devi andare a prendere e ci vedi gli altri, viene una cifra enorme. No, invece sì, però fino al 31 dicembre, perché sennò la tabella non avrebbe mandato. Quindi la divisa per le certificati sono quelle di
sai che 7 è un numero particolare,
però poi all'interno di questa unità tu devi contare quello che è sostenuto fino al 31 dicembre. Quindi poi dividerglielo.
certo l'ho compilato da un miracolo.
Perché faccio compilare delle altre cose? Non ti devi spiegare.
No. Quando vai quando tempo? No, quando? Più la prossima settimana te lo dico. Cerco di dire ok. Il punto fondamentale è recuperare il vediamo anche per una me l'aveva data al Giuseppe e una l'ho portata con gli altri. Quindi vediamo una cosa che farò a metà settimana, prendo una parte di 2
che lascia un po' tutto secondo me da questo, però è più quella doppia. Io non è che sto tanto mi metto in conto di telefono ne ha fatto soprattutto mi sono inventato una cosa, qualche corso vabbè. L'aspetto invece di sarebbe carino i partecipanti delle università più esperti vanno a fare delle visite coincidono visite da una parte per vedere cosa c'è, training dall'altra parte, in alcuni per esempio, solamente grazie a Border, dove cominci a stare arrivati, dove riusciamo a far vincere. Ci sono due città che probabilmente ci sarebbero per questo e hanno una forza di saranno esperti LNG, per quelli che sono un Boston and Gulf, importante anche di andare là a fare delle visite. Io ho chiamato il servizio soft facilitation del la visita che partiscono sulle cose. Vogliamo? Trasversale, sì, per ognuno si fa la sua topologia, gli altri non è va bene, sì, no, direi andiamo a casa la prossima settimana. Vuoi fare il programma di non sto scherzando. No, una cosa che sarà fondamentale è fare un lavoro. Per come è impostato non è difficilissimo scrivere alcune cose, però ci sono due cose che sono fondamentali. Uno è delle dei testi che dimostrano che è molto presente no? Qual è lo stato del progetto di gestione, qual è lo stato di intervento, stavo pensando si è zittito lui ma non è così far capire che sappiamo che esistono le cose non che e l'altro è che bisognava infatti io a Vigna fare le cose sono trasformate deve essere una conferenza che significa far vedere, cioè magari fare una lista di potenziali esperti da contattare ma basta guardare i programmi di 4-5 conferenze queste qua noi queste sono delle persone che non hanno la leggiamo li contatteremo dopo magari sia dopo per l'immagine da pagare la missione è bello per me molto bene fare visite a bordo anche sei di già a bordo la visita poi fare da non perdere quel tempo perché è questo che io pensavo secondo me è un bando abbastanza così questa quella abbastanza lunedì Randolph telefoneranno dopo per fare un la passerei lunedì martedì per capire più o meno abbiamo già l'università ma avere una conferma che ognuno faccia le sue verifiche anche quello che dicevo perché solo per questo no ieri che gli guarda abbiamo una no, ma detto l'altra volta parlando di l'attico per i morti due era abbastanza questa è diventa un memoria può succedere quando vai a però veramente
Se riuscite a fermare le restituirne le scendite così perché quelle di prima in realtà poi sotto vediamo un attimo, tanto adesso
sarà un carico.
mi devo fare anche un'altra cosa, cioè, molto più banale. Io allora sto mandando tutti i link per vedere tutti online, sono di un box dove niente, le presentazioni che ho mandato. Io nel nostro email mi viene di andare a ascoltare le presentazioni. No, infatti, poi mi vedrò così, perché io ho considerato non l'ho trovata. Come il link che dato sul Relevance Way arriverà anche un po' di rimettere, non ce l'ho fatta.
Parlando quindi della...
Ho guardato un altro verbale, poi ci siamo riuniti anche lunedì pomeriggio alle 6:30.
C'è in Italia qualcuno con la hai fatto
Sì, voglio dire, ho bisogno un attimo di passarmela.
Una delle due?
Mi deve firmare quella per accettazione, che è l'altra. L'altra.
Questa?
Devo firmarla qua e poi dall'altra parte. Me la fate un attimo?
Ho scritto.
Quindi questa?
Espulso.
Per accettazione.
Perché l'altra casa si deve
Vuole anche la busta?
Regalo.
No, la mia domanda era tu ti hai pagato
Anche le facce.
infatti la mia domanda era puoi dare alla che mai definito
Poi
io ho un raggio di
andiamo avanti, vediamo se poi rimane qualcuno.
no, perché in realtà qualcosa rimane,
Magari tutto risolto.
però plenaria ha perso un po' la traccia di come era rimasta e era altra cosa. Infatti io ho detto no, infatti male che io non posso dirlo. Però vedi che ce l'avevo proprio lì. E ti aspettavi 2 minuti perché l'avrei detto. Quindi no, me lo passate sul mio testo, se le do, quindi direi che era una manica, non me ne vuoi dire in realtà,
Vabbè,
Sì.
Ho sentito parlare di quella data lì.
Sono andato settimana scorsa ho provato ad andare via Linate, da Linate a Bruxelles, da Linate sono andato
Per andare su a Linate
a mettere un volo diretto, non è andato. C'è per Tirana da Genova e non c'è
perché questa comunque abbiamo fatto però le fatto un attimo però non è però per capire se no, vabbè, non parliamo della foto devo chiedere altre 2000 cose, perché la possibilità che continuare a parlare di
Qua invece
Ciao, ci aspettiamo ancora un
no,
attimo.
per farli addormentare per questo scenario.
Al momento solo la Spagna, perché l'altra è la nostra principale. Vuoi mandarla avanti lei o la mando avanti io?
Mando avanti lei?
Ok, perfetto.
Perché magari tra l'altro può darsi che qualche passaggio, qualche paragrafo lo scritti, ma nel senso che sì. Okay. Ready? Ready, go. Buongiorno. Good morning. And before I'm blamed, all the best wishes to the ladies here, because today is the Women's Day, which is wrongly regarded to as a feast in Italy, but actually it's a celebration. Some labor victories in the States in the 19th century. My name is Luca Spallarossa. I am from Genova. And I will briefly introduce myself as far as my professional activity has been so far. But first of all, I would like to make a very short statement about you, because I think you're being given a real opportunity with this course to address some training, globally speaking, especially because shipping and transportation logistics, where I'm more into, are disciplines which definitely need to be globalized. And so I think you have a beautiful opportunity. Speaking of myself briefly, not as much for giving, to celebrate my ego, but to make you understand what are the information and the experiences I can transfer to you. I will briefly, possibly, explain you about my professional activities. As said, I was born in Genova ages ago, but my family, I'm the 7th generation of my family in shipping transportation, meaning this, that I think the grandfather of my grandfather started a stevedoring company in Genova, stevedoring handling company in Genova, in the second half of the 19th century, meaning around 1860, 1870, which the stevedores, as we will see later, are professionals who are employed by the ship owners, by the ocean carriers, to handle the operations of stowage and unstowage, of loading and unloading the cargo on board of their vessels. And this was a very important, task and operation until the cargo was moved under break bulk general cargo condition, meaning this before the revolution, the so-called revolution of the containerization started about 40 years ago. So this stevedoring firm started in 1870. Myself, I started working in the company about 4 decades ago, early 70s, when in Genova and worldwide we could see the first container vessels showing up in the trades. Then in the 80s, I became a shipping agent, and we will see later a shipping agent is the representative in any port, on any country, of a foreign ocean-going vessel, both serving trade and tramp or charter services. So in the 80s, and this for the benefit of some our Spanish listeners, we founded in Geneva the first joint venture between a foreign ship owner, Compagnia Transatlantica Spagnola, which was a state-owned company, which was the same as in Italia we had Italia di Navigazione, and we founded Agenzia Marittima Transatlantica, who was representing Spanish Line Transatlantica in Italy for their liner services from Europe, from Italy to the Americas, North America, Central America, and South America. At that time, so we witnessed with CTE, Transatlantica Spagnola, the initial steps for converting the fleets from general cargo, break bulk cargo fleets into container fleets. Another opportunity I was given in the next decade, in the 90s, was to become the chairman of one of the so-called shipping conferences, which now are practically obsolete and don't exist anymore. A shipping conference, I don't know whether you have had any information about this, was practically a consortium amongst ocean carriers, liner ocean carriers, serving the same trade, who in this conference were trying to standardize the schedules of the vessels, to give to the trade, to the exporters, regular sailings, regular prices, and trying not to compete among themselves. It was a sort of cartel, which anyway had, of course, also many pluses in its principles. But both the European Union and the European Shipper Councils Council in Brussels in those years envisaged in the conferences a trust. So based on the principle of antitrust, they decided the conferences had to be disbanded and the trade would be free for all. And this happened in the late 90s. At that point, after serving as stevedore, a shipping agent, as chairman of a conference, the vessel, so I decided to change completely my, let's say, activity, and I went and I started operating as a freight forwarder. A freight forwarder, international freight forwarder, is, and this we will see later in the presentation, is the body, the entity, could be even a person, but normally it's a person organized in a company, who represents upon a mandate of the cargo, and is the interface with the vessel through her agents to move the cargo on the vessels from the point A to the point. And since then, I have been acting as a freight forwarder, as a sales director of a couple of companies in Geneva, but with offices worldwide. And now also I have the opportunity to represent the freight forwarders, Genoese freight forwarders, and the Italian freight forwarders. I'm a member of the boards of the local association in Geneva and the Federation of the Freight Forwarders in Milano. I represent them also in CLECAT. CLECAT is the confederation in Brussels of the European freight forwarders, and is the interface of the European freight forwarders with the European Union, in order to try and discuss together with the European Union and also the other category associations like the European Shipper Councils, the European Ship Owners Association, EXA, all the problems and the developments of the trades. Trades meaning under the point of view of the freight forwarder. So, in this respect, I'm a member of both of the Maritime Commission Institute inside of CLECAT and also of the Sustainable Institute, which is also becoming much more important in time, because the sustainability, as you are well aware of, are themes which involve, of course, worldwide any type of activity and per se also transportation, logistics, and supply chain. This I'm telling you because in this way I would like to try to explain what I've been doing in these years. Even though I was discussing earlier with my colleagues, it's not easy to explain some principles and concepts which to me, having been acting in this activity for ages and for a generation, are easy but are not very common and easy, let's say, concepts to understand. So in the first part, I will try at least to explain you some definitions about transportation, logistics, and supply chain. And in the second part, I will try to explain to you the roles with various stakeholders involved in all these disciplines. Stakeholders like hub, like a cluster, and all these modern, words and concepts which have been generated somehow also by the globalization. We have a couple of hours to talk together, but I will try to, in this relatively short time, to explain you, to transfer to you all these knowledges. So this morning the presentation is called Logistics Chain Scenario and Operators Involved in the Transport Chain. So I'm going to read it because it's easier, but of course we can have some recess later if you think it's you want to make some questions. So the operation of transportation determines the efficiency of moving products. The progress in techniques and management principles improves the moving load, delivery speed, service quality, operation cost, and the use of facilities and infrastructures and energy saving. Again, here we are with the environment. Read this. Yeah. Transportation takes a crucial part in the manipulation of logistics, and since logistics advanced from the 50s, due to the trend of globalization and delocalization of industrial production in recent decades, the importance of logistic management has gained momentum. For industries, logistics helps to optimize the existing production and distribution processes based on the same resources through management techniques for promoting the efficiency and competitiveness of companies. The key element in a logistics chain is the transportation system, which links the separated activities. Transportation occupies up to 1/3 of the amount of the logistic costs, and transportation systems deeply influence the performance of logistic systems. Transporting is required in the whole production procedures from manufacturing to delivery to the final consumer. And also, speaking of environment, it is said that transportation produces 30% of the CO2 emissions worldwide. The Council of Logistics Management defined the logistic to be a part of the supply chain process that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, effective, forward and reverse flow and storage of goods, services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet customers' requirements. We are all driven by the customer because at the end of the story, who pays for all this? The customer, goods, the cargo. Nobody wants to pay. The ship doesn't want to pay the forwarder. They want to make money, but at the end of the story, most of the costs are put on the goods. Logistics describes the entire process of materials and products moving into, through, and out of firm. Inbound logistics cover the movement of material received from suppliers. Materials management describes the movement of materials and components within a firm. Physical distribution refers to the movement of goods outward from the end of the assembly line to the customer. Finally, the supply chain management is larger than the logistics and it links logistics more directly with the user total communication network and with the firm's engineering staff. Logistics is a process of moving and handling goods and materials from the beginning to the end of the production. sales process, and waste disposal to satisfy customers and add business competitiveness. It is the process of anticipating customer needs and wants, acquiring the capital materials, people, technologies, and information necessary to meet those needs, optimizing the goods or service producing network to fulfill customer requests, and utilizing the network to fulfill customer requests in a timely way. So we'll see the principle are for moving cargo are safety, speed, and competitiveness, the main three, and now sustainability. Simply to say, logistics is a customer-oriented operation management. The components, logistics services, information systems, and infrastructures are the three interacting components of this system and closely interacting. Logistics services support the movement of materials and products from inputs through production to consumers, as well as associated waste disposal and reverse flows. One of the new logistics is reverse logistics. They include activities undertaken in-house by the user of the services and the operations of external service providers. In many cases, I will see some functions are outsourced instead of having them in-house where they may be too costly. So logistics services include physical activities, that is to say, the transportation and storage, which are physical activities, as well as non-physical activities, supply chain design, selection of contractors, freight negotiation, and so on. Most activities of logistics services are bi-directional. Information systems, as you will see later, include the modeling, management of decision-making, and more important issues are tracking and tracing. To have always a track and a trace and to know in any moment in real time where your cargo is. It provides essential data and consultation in each step of the interaction among logistics services and their origin and destination stations. The structure comprises human resources, financial resources, money, packaging materials, warehouses, transport, and communication. Most fixed capital is for building those infrastructures. They are concrete foundation and basement within logistics systems. The probable origin of the term is degrees logistikos, I think you have to, which is skilled in calculation. You have to sharpen your pencil and make very good calculation, trying not to mistake. Logistics was initially military activities concerning with getting soldiers and ammunition to the battlefront in time for the battle, but it is now seen as an integrated part of the modern production process. The main background of its development is that the recession in America in the 50s caused the industrial to place importance on goods circulations. The term was initially developed in the context of military activities in the 18th and early 19th century, and it launched from the military logistic in World War II. But especially the US forces during the Vietnam War were huge and supported by logistics and giving a boost to the development of containerization. Military definitions typically incorporate the supply, movement, and quartering of troops in a set. Nowadays, a number of researchers were taken and made logistic application from military activities to business activities like the web. The web was initially constructed for military use, and now it's worldwide used by industry. Before the 50s, logistics was under the dormant condition. Production was the main part of the manager concerned about, and this logistic was once regarded as the necessary evil. We have to produce, we have to sell, but we have nonetheless to use logistics. Barbie. Who is Barbie? You know Barbie? Have you ever played? Both my daughters and my granddaughter, nobody ever used Barbie, and also because I'm in shipping, they're in shopping, and this is another issue. Barbie and her partner was called Ken, maybe. The worldwide well-known doll produced by Mattel Toys. Mattel Toys, I think the headquarters are based in Texas, USA. Was initially produced in 1959, was named the All-American Doll, American Girl, but she actually was not. Actually, an American businesswoman, Ruth Handler, is credited with the creation of the doll using a German doll called Bild Lily. If you look at Bild Lily, she looks exactly like Barbie. Mattel Corporation started to build Barbie in Japan, then in Taiwan, whereas her clothes came from Taiwan, her body was made in China, and the molds for the production of the body came from the USA. The nylon hair was from Japan, the plastic body from Taiwan again, the cotton clothes from China. Barbie was and is one of the oldest supply and logistic chain product example. From the 70s onwards, more and more application and researches of logistics appeared. During the oil crisis in 1973, the effects of logistics activities on companies grew. Slow growth of market, pressure of high stagflation, release of transportation control, and competitions of the third world on products and materials all increased the importance of logistics systems on planning and business, because there was a crisis, so we have to act wherever we can to cut costs, and logistics, which can count up to 30% of the value of the cargo, is very important to act on. Logistics circulation is an essential of business activities and sustaining competitiveness. However, to conduct and manage a large company is cost-consuming and not economic. Therefore, alliance on international industries could save working costs, and cooperation with other partners could specialize in logistic areas. Interrelations between transportation and logistics. Without well-developed transportation system, logistics would not bring the advantages. Besides, a good transport system in logistic activities could provide better logistics efficiency, reduce operation costs, and promote service quality and save the environment for you, for your children and grandchildren. Transport system is the most important economic activity amongst the components of business logistics system. As said, 1/3 to 2/3 of the expenses of enterprise logistic costs are spent in transportation. The transportation costs include the means of transportation, let's say the hardware, which are ships, aircraft, trucks, railway systems, barges, warehouses, cross docks, containers, pallets, slip sheets, which is the typical type of pallet, port terminals, inland terminals, container freight station, dry ports, and you name it. Transport system makes goods and products movable and provides timely and regional efficacy to promote value added under the least cost principle. Transport affects the result of logistic activities and influences production and sale. Value of transportation varies with different industries. For those products with small volume, low weight, and high value, transportation cost simply occupies a very small part of sales and is less regarded to. For those big, heavy, and low value products, transportation occupies a very big part of sales and affects profit more. With this means that if you have to ship tiles, the transportation affects you more than you have to ship Ferraris. Value of a container of 40-foot of Ferrari is about €500,000. A container of tiles of mineral water is about $10,000. So, whereas the transportation costs are not that distant. And now we come to the just-in-time concept, which you will hear very often speaking of logistics. The just-in-time concept is a byproduct of the above, which means that the cargo has to be shipped very quickly from the production to the consumption or to the production destination site, so that you don't build up big inventories. So having just-in-time products in the supply chain, in the logistic chain, means that you don't have to invest, keep money there for your investment, maybe have then outdated or obsolete products, and but of course the just-in-time process has to work. It seems that the first just-in-time concept was launched in the 80s by Toyota, the car manufacturer, meaning this, that they were buying from various suppliers, crankshafts, pistons, electrical apparatus, and then from various origin, and they had to convey them timely to the chain where they build the cars. Timely, just in time, because if you build the cars and one of these components hasn't arrived, then you are, we say in Italy, you are off the cat. You are, I mean, you have some problems. One of the most peculiar just-in-time factors I had to deal with was about 7 years ago, when an account of mine in Los Angeles, he wanted to sell yogurt in California, buying the yogurt from Italy. Now, normally the yogurt has a shelf life from production to shelf life of 60 days. The quickest transit time from Italy to the West Coast via the Panama Canal were given by two ocean carriers, Zim and Hapag-Lloyd, who were sailing from Geneva to Los Angeles or Long Beach in 21 days. So out of 60 days, you take away 21, you have 29 days. The rest was dedicated to the pre-carriage of the yogurt from the production plant in the province of Milano to bring the container to Geneva, wait a couple of days, 2 or 3 days for the vessel to arrive, sea passage, unload and clear of custom the yogurt in Los Angeles, and then deliver it to the customer. But this, of course, had to be done in a absolutely sharp just-in-time chain, because if you maybe missed a vessel, and normally you have weekly sailings on liner, containerized liner traffic, you lose already another week. So that lasted for some months, then the guy disappeared. Maybe it was a bit of a too, let's say, extreme just-in-time concept chain. The effects of transportation and logistics activities. Transportation plays a connective role among the several steps that result in the conversion of resources into useful goods in the need, again, of the ultimate consumer. It is the planning of all these functions and sub-functions into a system of goods movement in order to minimize cost, maximize service to the customers that constitutes the concept of business logistics. The system, once put in place, must be effectively managed. Traditionally, these steps involve separate companies for production, storage, transportation, export, imports, customs, brokerage, wholesaling, and retail sale. However, basically, production and manufacturing plants, warehousing services, merchandising establishments are all about doing transportation. You cannot go without transportation. Production or manufacturing plants require the assembly of materials, components, and suppliers with or without storage, processing, and material handling with the plant and plant investment. Am I too quick? No? Warehousing services between plants and marketing outlets involve the separate transport. Merchandising establishments completed the chain with delivering the cargo to the consumers. The manufacturers limited themselves to the production of goods, leaving marketing and production to other firms. Warehousing and storage can be considered in terms of services for the production process and for product distribution. There have been major changes in the number and location of facilities, with the closure of many single-user warehouses and an expansion of consolidation facilities and distribution centers. These developments reflect factors such as better transport service and pressures to improve, again, logistic performance. I think we can go directly. Forms of logistics operation. Supply chain management, SCM, which is one of the very common acronyms that you will have. We will see later further acronyms. Most common of them are to identify the countries, developing countries like BRICS, the bad country like the PIGS or PEIGS, and now the newest, the CIVETS. Have you ever heard of this acronym? CIVETS is CIVETS, which are new, let's say, developing country with high GDPs, gross domestic products. CIVETS are Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa, which is included, by the way, already in the BRICS. So acronyms, you will be full with acronyms. So SCM is the concept for handling the production procedures in broad sense. An effective SCM application could promote the industry to satisfy the demand of new business environment. Supply chain management is a continuously evolving management philosophy that seeks to unify the collective productive competencies and resources of the business function found both with the enterprise and outside in the firm's allied business partners located along intersecting supply channels into a highly competitive, customer-enriching supply system focused on developing innovative solutions and synchronizing the flow of marketplace products, services, and information to create unique, individualized sources of customer value. This is a very long definition, but should be, let's say, enshrining what is the concept of SCM. In the 80s, the term SCM was developed to express the need to integrate the key business processes from end user through original suppliers. Original suppliers being those that provide products, services, and information that add value for customers and other stakeholders. The basic ideas behind the SCM is that companies involve themselves in a supply chain by exchanging information regarding market fluctuations and production capabilities. With all relevant information, and then I think your next lecturer will talk to you about the system, the information and technology systems. The all relevant information is accessible to any relevant company. Every company in the supply chain has the ability to help optimize the entire supply chain rather than sub-optimize based on a local interest. This will lead to better planned overall production and distribution, can cut costs and give a more attractive final product, leading to better sales or better overall results of the companies involved. And again, here we're talking about competitiveness, money at the end of the and profits. Incorporating SCM successfully leads to a new kind of competition on the global market, where competition is no longer of the company versus company, but rather takes on a supply chain versus a supply chain form. The primary objective of SCM is to fulfill customer demands through the most efficient use of resources, including distribution capacity, inventory, and labor. In theory, a supply chain seeks to primary objectives of supply chain management is to fulfill customers' demands through the most efficient use of resources, including distribution capacity, inventory, and labor. A supply chain seeks to match demand and with supply with the minimal inventory, the famous just-in-time again concept. Various aspects of optimizing the supply chain include liaising with suppliers to eliminate bottlenecks, sourcing strategically to strike a balance between lowest material costs and transportation, implementing the just-in-time concept, techniques to optimize manufacturing flow, maintaining the right mix and location of factories and warehouses to serve customer markets, and using location allocation, vehicle routing analysis, dynamic programming, and of course traditional logistic optimization to maximize the efficiency and sustainability of the distribution side. All clear so far? There is often confusion over the term supply chain and logistics. The term logistics applies to activities within one company organization involving distribution of products, whereas the term supply chain also encompasses manufacturing and procurement, and therefore has a much broader focus. And as it involves multiple enterprises, including suppliers, manufacturers, and retailers, working together to meet the customer need for a product or service. Starting in the 90s, several companies chose to outsource the logistics aspect of supply chain management by partnering with the 3PL. This is an acronym. Third-party logistic provider. Third-party logistic provider. Companies also outsource, and we will see later what this means, because we have 1PL, 2PL, 3PL, now 4PL, then LLPs, and now yesterday I discovered now that there is a new acronym which is encompassing 5PL, which I still didn't understand what it's talking about. An unusual food supply chain is operated by the Dabbawalas. Ever heard of the Dabbawalas in Mumbai? No. And is noted for being extremely reliable without using any computers or modern technology. The Dabbawalas is an organization in Mumbai. The oldest is in Bombay, which is the old part of Mumbai, India, and is an organization made of about 5,000 individuals who in the morning go to the offices in the old Mumbai and take a note for the lunch box any employee wants, and then they deliver for lunch. They say about 200,000 lunch boxes per day, each made of based on the order the employee has made a few hours earlier, without the use of computer, without the use of nothing. So they just have distinct boxes. In Geneva, we called it the gamelin. I don't know whether you have Genoese. And they make all these lunch boxes and deliver them. They make signs, and they make a perfect supply chain distribution of each lunch box. As I said, 200,000 every day, without making any mistake, but especially without any use of computers or whatever. So this is a very old supply chain, which is really fascinating. So now, talking about logistics, we have many logistics. We have maritime logistics, including inland waterways, and this morning we will definitely focus on maritime logistics. We have air freight logistics, we have sea and air logistics, which are a combination of the two above, land logistics, trucks, trains, reverse logistics, express delivery, e-commerce, city logistics, picking and packing, and inventory management. And as said, this morning we'll focus on maritime logistics, credited to be the mode of transportation which handles by far the majority of worldwide cargo as integrated in the multimodal and intermodal concept. Speaking of containers, because you see them spread all over in Genova, it is said that in the world currently are moving 150 million TEUs per annum per year. The TEU, as you know, is the standard measurement of the standard container, is a 20-foot equivalent unit. And it is said that in a few years from now, this worldwide movement will increase to 250 million TEUs. So, I mean, again, globalization, delocalization will enhance and increase the needs of good transportation, logistics, and supply chain management systems. Maritime industry plays an important role in international freight. It can provide a cheap and high carrying capacity conveyance, of course, for consumers. It has a vital position in the transportation of particular goods, both consumer goods, currently, as said, transported in marine containers. Container, also this is a container, this is a plastic container. Normally everybody's talking about containers, but the right definition is marine container or sea containers, which enable transportation from exporter to importer for the entire route in a seamless supply chain with no interruption, whatever, without the need of intermediate cargo transfer. This is the intermodal or multimodal concept which links the various modes of transportation, rail, road, inland waterway if needed, barge or whatever, then the ocean passage, then the other side of the ocean you have the same process, which involves again trucks, trains, rail, inland waterways, and whatever. So maritime industries has a vital position in the transportation of both of consumer goods as well as bulk commodities, such as crude oil, scraps of any type, or grains. So we have practically the three modes of transportation in vessel is the break bulk, carga general in Spain, merce varia, then you have the containerized cargo, and then you have bulk cargo, carico alla rinfusa in Italian, granel in Spanish, and carico alla rinfusa can be both liquid or solid. And another concept on containerization has strived the necessity to standardize all the modes of transportation, which means that the containers now theoretically are all of the same dimensions. Whereas at the beginning of containerization, you have containers, the containers are referred to normally first with the length, outside length. So a 20-foot tube is 20 foot long, 8 foot wide, and 8'6" or 9'6" high. The 9'6" is the so-called high cube container. But at the beginning of containerization, there were no standardization of the containers. So you have containers which were 8 foot, 20 foot, 35 foot. Now you have the three main, let's say, dimensions are the 20 foot, the 40 foot, and then the high cube, the 45, the high cube container. But down in America, you have now also the 45-foot containers length, and now in America, in the States, which I would say the cradle of shipping and university of shipping, they're starting to put on the market also for marine transportation 53-foot containers, because in the States, the trucks and the trailers you see on the road are all 53 foot long. The standardization process is somehow managed by an international organization which sits in Paris. It's called ISO, which the acronym means International Standardization Organization. After the so-called container revolution, initiated in the 50s by Malcolm McLean, who was a trucker sitting at the docks waiting for the loads to be loaded, so he thought, why don't I put all my cargo in a container, in a box, and leave it in the dock waiting for the ship to arrive, and then I collect other cargo. And so he initiated the first ocean containerized ocean carrier, which was named, I don't recall the first name, it was called but the biggest company he launched was Sealand Services. And at that time he was thinking already of intermodal services, sea and land. So the revolution was initiated in the 50s, but actually exploded in the early 70s. And the majority of world trade is now transported by ocean carriers in marine containers. It is the preferred method for transporting large volumes over great distances. Ocean freight is forecasted to grow in the coming years, as I said earlier, with the incognita of the financial downturn, which has actually somehow in 2008, 2009, sort of slowed down the process, but now it seems the process is starting to build up again. As the use of containerization by importers increases, and the global ocean transportation infrastructure continues to enhance. Excuse me. Ocean freight is still the most competitive mode of transportation. However, this advantage of lower transport costs comes as a trade-off against longer transportation times as opposed to the air freight, but this is very, very easy to understand. A typical voyage from Hong Kong to LA can take up to 10 days. A voyage from Hong Kong to New York through the Panama Canal can take up to 31 days. And as said, the recent financial downturn, as well the excess of tonnage, meaning too many vessels available, has anyhow introduced the slow steaming concept, which is starting to somehow modify above parameters, meaning this, that whereas in the liner trade, containerized liner trade patterns, we had during the financial crisis, sailings every week from wherever place to the world, to wherever place to the world, with vessels sailing across the sea at 21 knots of speed, but there was no cargo to carry because there was an excess of vessels. So the ocean carriers decided at that time to have lower speed in the vessels, taking away from the service, putting an anchor some vessels of a typical service, and also increasing the frequency, whereas where they had weekly sailings, the sailing was then every 10 days because there was not enough cargo to load all the vessels in line. To save costs and enhance competitiveness, current maritime logistics firms tend to use larger scale ships and cooperative operation techniques. Moreover, current maritime customers can care about service quality more than service delivery price. Thus, it is necessary to build new logistic concepts in order to increase service satisfaction, that is to say, real-time information, accurate time windows, and goods tracking systems. The operation of maritime transport industries can be then divided into three main types. One is liner, the other one is tramp, and the other one is industry shipping. So liner shipping, which is the most known at these times, is based on the same ship's routes, price, and regular schedules, as well as predefined schedule, pattern schedules or itineraries, all the same ports and so on. International containerized shipments are performed utilizing ocean liner services, and ocean carriers have expanded their service beyond the traditional ocean freight to include freight consolidation, warehousing, railway services, port terminals, inland transportation, up to logistic service, and we will see later. The concept is this evolution of the maritime container transport is that whereas in the old days a ship owner or ocean carrier was ocean carrier and was giving services, let's say, from Geneva to New York, and then the other 3PLs like the freight forwarders were taking care of the rest. Now, the concept of the container, which is a portion of the hold of the volume of the ship, which is practically transported to the house to house, the house of the supplier, to the house of the deliverer, of the consignee, has somehow expanded the concept so that the ship owners now are trying also to give themselves the services from door to door instead of giving only the, let's say, ocean portion, which of course causes a number of clashes in functions with other 3PLs providers, such as freight forwarders. But this we will see later. The second is the tramp shipping, also defined as charter shipping, and which means not fixed transport prices, defined on specific shipment, non-regular routes and schedules. It usually delivers particular specific goods such as special project cargo, awkward cargo, as well as turnkey projects. It's the same concept that we have also in aviation. We have liner services and we have charter aircraft going wherever is required, but not based on a regular partner, a regular flow of cargo. And then we have industry shipping, and whose main purpose is to ensure the supply of raw materials, and is referred to normally as bulk transportation, as we were mentioning earlier. Dry bulk, ore, soil, metal scrap, liquid bulk, and oil. This is definitely referred to as non-consumer goods, not what is the consumer good, not what goes to what we can buy wherever is. And so the refineries, the steel plants, this is what we are referring to as industry shipping. And now we come to the maritime logistics services stakeholders. The modern definitions of the parties involved in logistics have produced the relatively modern acronyms 1PL, or first party logistic provider, second, third, fourth, and LLP, which means leading logistic partners. And as I said, now it seems that new definitions such as 5PL providers comes into the picture. Meaning this, the parties involved in building up the logistics and transportation process. First party logistics are the shipper and the consignee, the goods, the contract of selling and buying. So first party logistic partners are the shipper and the consignee, also coinciding with seller, supplier, and buyer. Actually, where all the process starts. Meaning the cargo, whose transactions between the seller and the buyer are defined by and regulated by the Incoterms you may heard of. The Incoterms, they are the international commercial terms, and they are issued by the International Chamber of Commerce, which is the, let's say, worldwide chain of all the National Chamber of Commerce, who have started, I think, I don't recall when they started to be issued, the Incoterms, but what they are is that they are regularly and continuously being renewed and updated. In fact, the latest edition of the Incoterms 2010 include also definitions of the new ways of transactions of the goods electronically, and they include also some sort of definitions for safety and security needs. So if we have no selling, buying process, we have no transportation and no supply chain and no nothing. So it all starts from the selling and buying. So the Incoterms are very important to know about. Normally in the transportation and logistics processes, especially in the freight forwarding environment, many people think that the Incoterms are referred specifically to the modes of transportation and to the responsibilities of each stakeholder of the transportation process. This is not correct, because the main function of the Incoterms is caring of the process of buying and selling. Then, as a byproduct, of this, of course, the Incoterms are referred to are very important also when you have to deal with transportation. But the main function is for the sales process. We had first-party logistic, and then we have second-party logistic partners are the ocean carriers. Of course, in the air freight, they are the aircraft, the air companies. But here we are more focused on maritime. So the ocean carriers represented by their shipping agents. There are specific distinctions in the definitions of ship owner, ocean carrier, and shipping agent, meaning this that the ship owner is the owner, the proprietor of the ship, but until he doesn't use the vessel to operate the company to make money issuing a bill of lading, he still is a ship owner. He's not an ocean carrier. Normally these two function may also coincide, but they could be even a different let's say person or company. A ship owner, the owner of a ship could be even maybe initially the very first owner of a ship is the shipyard, is where the ship is built. So there are specific distinctions in the definition of ship owner, ocean carrier, and shipping agent. But we may look at the ship as the main interface of the cargo. Both need the other, of course. The globalization and one of its main byproducts, that is to say the delocalization of the production plants, have caused, with a specific reference to the last 2 decades, a modification of the structure of both industry as well as carrier. This has accelerated the process of mergers and acquisitions amongst the main ocean carriers to the point that currently the main liner container carriers are about the first 10 container carriers are controlling over 60% of the capacity of containers moved worldwide, which means that there have been, from the 90s, I would say, this process of mergers acquisition has, for instance, when I was managing and chairing the conference from Italy, France, Spain, and Portugal, we had around the table 15 ocean carriers, which were controlling about 70% of the cargo. Now, those 15 have been carriers because of the progressive mergers and acquisition are 5, and these first 5 control about 40%. So this process has caused, let's say, big blocks of big companies controlling the market shares of the transportation. And furthermore, since the concept of containerization has produced the actual expansion of the influence of the ocean carrier, as I was saying before, from the simple service on the water to the inland portion of the transportation chain, we are now witnessing the trend of the ocean carriers to become the total providers of the transportation, thus controlling beyond the simple ocean leg, beyond the ocean passage, also the inland portion, both sides of the transportation chain, logistic chain, offering the so-called door-to-door service to the cargo. This process also is involving now, talking about containerized cargo, the port terminals, the land operations, truck and rail, as well as inland transportation on barges in inland waterways when applicable. And this expansion of the service and the jurisdiction may at times clash with the current functions of the other stakeholders, especially the freight forwarders, who therefore have to react inventing new services. Worldwide, these ocean carriers are represented by their shipping agents, originally independent entrepreneurs offering their organization to take care of all the needs, operational, financial, administrative, sales, and legal, of their principal in their territory. Recently, the carriers, also order better integrate the service offered to the clients, have taken majority of the stakes of the agent, thus controlling also the agencies. Now, in one paragraph, I have here tried to depict what are the main second-party logistics. Now, we will, going further, it's becoming maybe a little more complicated, but I would suggest that after we go through the definition of the party logistic partner providers, maybe if you want to make some questions to clarify the concept, I will be happy to reply. Third-party logistics providers are the logistic providers, including the freight forwarders, who represent then the cargo under a mandate, which is in Italy governed by some article of the civil codes from the 1737 onwards. They are also courier companies, as well as all the other companies integrating the process. The international freight forwarder is also defined the architect of transportation, il regista del trasporto. That is to say, the entity which can actually put together all the segments needed to perform logistic chains, bearing in mind the three criteria we were talking about earlier, needed to perform the best transportation: safety, competitiveness, and speed, provided that when we have the slow steaming, the whole process was put in somewhere aside. And the fourth aspect, which is also very important and growing day by day, is the sustainability. We will have, I think, in these days you have been very aware of this concept. The freight forwarder is an expert in customs operations, and he may also act as customs house broker, spedizioniere doganale, transitario, whereas transitario in Spain is more looked as a freight forwarder. He may manage either directly or by outsourcing solutions, warehouses, cross docks, offering warehousing, inventory management, freight consolidations, picking and packing services, insurance services, trucking and container services if requested by the account. So you may see that with reference also to the services that the ocean carrier may offer, there may be some clashing, some competition. So therefore, the freight forwarder is also defined as the one-stop shop to resolve any type of problem involving transportation of whatever type of cargo from any place of origin to any place of destination. If I bottle water and I sell it from San Pellegrino to Chicago, and I've never sold this water to my account in Chicago, then I am a bottler of water. I'm not a transporter or a logistic. So I have to ask a specialist, who is the freight forwarder, what is the best way for me to ship my mineral water from San Pellegrino to Chicago? And the freight forwarder, being the specialist, the architect of transportation, will give you the best solution or the best alternatives to ship the cargo from origin to destination. The traditional function of the freight forwarders now are endangered by the new philosophy, as I said before, as adopted by the ocean carriers, have triggered now the need of the freight forwarders to find new services proposal to the accounts to offset the competition of ocean carriers, who are therefore considered both a service supplier but also a competitor. So in this respect, the freight forwarder is constantly seeking innovating solutions for the re-engineering of the supply chain. And normally I can tell you that having been both a freight forwarder and a ship agent, I would say that the freight forwarder is the individual, the company who has to deal with more variables that sometimes he cannot control, but still towards his principle, the water is responsible for them. So it's a very difficult function to take care of, but it's the most, let's say, also the one which gives you the more possibility to invent every day some solution for the quick and the competitive delivery of the cargo from origin to destination. So the third-party logistics provider is an operator who specializes in integrated operation, warehousing, transportation services. These services may be 100% outsourced, as in the case of non-asset-based third-party logistics. It may also own part of the operations, but has warehouses, such as warehouses, vans, and trucks. It is then both a third-party and second-party, but it is still usually called a 3PL. The third-party logistics can also offer genuine supply chain services outside of its usual range of services, so it's a fourth-party logistics. In this category of the third-party logistics, we may also include the rail operators and the multimodal transport operators, who are also known, the MTOs, as combined transport suppliers, transporting goods under a single contract performed with different transport means. In this case, the MTO is liable for the entire carriage. In this case, he is a carrier issuing his own bills of lading, as the NVOCCs, which we'll see later. Another modern stakeholder of supply and logistic chain is the NVOCC, the non-vessel operating common carrier, normally referred to as a shipment consolidator, or a freight forwarder who does not own any vessel, but acts as an ocean carrier by issuing own bills of lading, thus assuming responsibility of the shipping. This NVOCC is a relatively new concept which was generated by the containerization, let's say, revolution in the last years. The biggest NVOCCs, I would say now, sit in the Far East. And actually they are companies, maybe freight forwarders, who buy maybe on a yearly basis from the ocean carriers big portions of the vessels on each sailing, and then making a sort of a gambling on the volumes they will resell, on the pricing, because the prices of freights can go up and down depending on the market demands. And so these NVOCCs, they buy big portions aboard the ships over the sailings in the year, and then they resell partially also to the freight forwarders stakes of this big assignments, allotments they have bought, of course, trying to make money on this. And then we come to the fourth-party logistic providers, also referred to as LLP, leading logistic providers, who are consulting firms, that is to say, companies involved mostly in the consulting and advisory process without any asset involved, consulting or advisors. Nowadays, advisors and consultants and software companies and even 3PLs lay claim to being, they say they are four-party logistics. This is because any company advising a customer on logistics, transportation, and supply chain matters feels it may somehow claim to be a four-party. But this is actually the case only when the principle of neutrality is respected and that any conflict of interest is avoided. In this case, the freight forwarder giving service to the producer of the bottle of water, or the producer of sofa sets, definitely he cannot be regarded to as a four-party logistic because he will never be totally independent or totally with no interest. And as you may see, there are many sorry, a four-party logistic must also offer services considering a 360-degree view, a total view, which is not focused on its ability to implement the recommendation it gives, but on all options available at the market. It's just a consultant. As you may see, there may be some confusion on the roles and definition, and this is a byproduct of the modified supply chain concept as generated by the marine container evolution and revolution. You can call it a revolution, you can call it an evolution, because definitely the containerization process has indeed simplified the process of shipping cargo all over the globe, but of course it has also some negative byproducts, which means that containerization needs big spaces in the ports, in the inland terminals, because the containers, once empty, unloaded or stripped by the cargo, they have to sit somewhere. They have to be, they have a depreciation. They have also a wear and tear process if you don't use them. So they cost because either you bought them or you are leasing them. Normally, the ocean carriers are owners or lessors of the containers. Whenever you use a container, you don't use a container after it's been devanned, stripped from the cargo. You have to put it someplace. So beyond and on top of the depreciation and the wear and tear, the owner of the land will ask you money for parking this container. But I would say that the main, let's say, negative aspect of the containerization is the balance of traffics, which means that in a perfect world, when you have flows from Italy to the States, then you would have also need to have the same flows of paying cargo from the States to Italy, or from the States to the Far East, and then from the Far East back to the States, or from the Far East to Italy. But this never happens. And this causes an unbalance of container fleets. So you have stacks of thousands of containers, which also environmentally are not the best to see. If you go to Santo Stefano Magra, which is the stacking area of the Porto La Spezia, you see huge stacks of containers in the sun or in the rain waiting for their to be employed, which causes, as I said, the cost, financial maintenance cost. And so for instance, currently you have, for instance, from the Far East to Italy or to Europe, you have much more much more exports than imports. And so you always have, practically, to say it very simply, you may have the containers where they are not, or you may have stacks of empty containers where you don't need them. So this is one of the problems. The main aspects of maritime logistics, as integrated the intermodal or multimodal concept, as we were mentioning earlier, may be therefore summarized in ocean transportation. So we have seen ship owners, ocean carriers, ship agents, and ship brokers, who are the entities mainly dealing with the buying and selling processes of vessels, from ship owner to ship owner, from shipyard to ship owner, and so on. You have inland waterways transportation, inland feeder barges. In Italy, this is not possible because of physical and morphological reasons, but in the United States, the inland transportation with barges carrying container or also bulk, solid or liquid bulk, is very common. As you may know, United States have waterways. You can navigate from Chicago down to New Orleans through the Mississippi and Missouri rivers, which means that these waterways can be used as a normal mode of transportation, like in South America, cargo going up the Orinoco River or whatever, in India also, some places in Asia. So the inland feeder barges serve as an inland mode of transportation. Then we have the freight consolidation and then the OCCs, non-vessel operating common carriers, the MTOs. We have the container freight station services, where you consolidate the cargo, small parcels of cargo coming from various suppliers to be consolidated inside the container, in Milan or in wherever where the industrial districts are, and then once containerized cargo can go to the ship. Warehousing, cross-docking. You have insurance services, which is a part also of the process. It's very important. Custom brokerage, which means the handling of the customs operations to clear the cargo, to ship the cargo and to clear the cargo when it has arrived to destination. We have containers and chassis leasing. You need, if the ship owner needs containers, you will lease them from a leasing company, or the chassis or the trailers to load. This is very common in the States again. Again, also in the container leasing was very common at the beginning of containerization. Many companies, like you have, for instance, in car hire, they were buying, this company, this big corporation were buying fleets of hundreds of thousands of containers, and then they were leasing them to the ship owners. In the 70s, I happened to have been the managing director of a container leasing company in Genova, who was representing two foreign container leasing companies, and on behalf of these container leasing companies, I was trying to make lease agreements, master leases with the ship owners to lease them the containers, which then they would employ for their traffics. Inland feeder barges on inland waterways, and then trucking, of course, trucking services and rail services. The rail is and here we may also speak briefly of the modes of transportation. The modes of transportation in the intermodal concept are the road, the sea, the ocean, sea, the truck, and the rail. In Italy, due to the rail infrastructure, the rail transportation has a very low percentage with respect also to the European standards. I think in Europe we have 20% or more, or even more maybe in the north, of cargo transported on the rail as opposed to the cargo transported on rubber, on trucks. The institutions, but especially the market, is constantly requesting a mode switch, which is trying to put more cargo, ship the cargo from the trucks to the rail, because of the environment, because of the costs. This is not easy in this country, also because the rail is more competitive when we are speaking of long distances. In Italy, where the distances are relatively short, it is said that I think the rail becomes competitive beyond stretches of at least 200 or 300 kilometers. And in Italy, with 300 kilometers, you're already in Germany. So, and this may trigger some other problems. And finally, in the recent years, now we talk about environment. All the stakeholders have also approached the sustainability concept as a whole, as already discussed in other panels in this training project. All the stakeholders, public and private bodies involved are acknowledging the need to have a priority look to the environment. This is requested both by the supplier and the final consumer. Another modern definition is opti-logistics, to optimize logistics, and mix of the optimization of all the logistics processes with a high attention to sustainability. The new attention given to the CO2 or NOx and SOx, the sulfur or nitrogen oxides, emissions, and the carbon footprint traceability has generated concepts known also as a green modal transportation. The third carrier in the world, the container carrier, has set up a specific company called the Green Modal, and who is trying to address the problem of sustainability. New extra financial rating agencies, like we have for Financial World, Environment, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's, and you name it, are taking care of the environment footprint in the logistics chain to add to the three basic concepts we were talking about: safety, speed, and competitiveness, also the very important sustainability concept. Now, this would be the end of this morning presentation. I anticipate that some concepts are quite, maybe quite complicated, but I would be available for whatever question you may raise. Thank you.
Good morning. I have an exam about logistic process, so can you repeat can you repeat the main difference between supply chain and supply chain management, please?
No, supply chain is supply chain. The management is the management. The supply chain is the process of bringing any type of commodity from supplier to the consignee, the buyer, let's say. So it involves also selling the product. What is the products I want to sell? What are the components of this process I want to sell? So I have to manage all this. To do this, I have to use the second tier, which is logistics. So I have, first of all, to design the water or the sofas, and to make all the modern the steps to make my product to become, first of all, a good sell, but a good competitive sell. So this involves mostly the production, the design, the production, and the selling process to the supplier, to the final, to the consignee. Then with the logistics, I can deliver this product from my origin to the destination. And inside the logistics, I have to use transportation. So transportation is a more physical. Logistics is a more, let's say, conceptual as far as the movement. Supply chain concerns even the projecting of the product I want to sell. There are supply chain, logistics, and I know it's not easy, but
What is the most difficult activities for the third-party logistic?
Well, the most difficult, as I mentioned earlier, I think the freight forwarder is the entity who has more responsibilities on more variables which he cannot control, but for which he is responsible towards his principle, the cargo. Because when I say one of my main accounts used to be Chateau d'Ax, you know, the famous producer in Italy of sofa sets and furniture. Let's say that initially, like all main furniture producers, they were producing in Italy, but then starting from the early 2000s, they have to delocalize the production mainly to the Far East or to Eastern Bloc, Eastern Europe, or sometimes to South America. And so when this account comes to me and asks me, look, I want to start a new production of furniture in Shenzhen, which is close to Guangzhou, Canton, in southern China. And I want to sell my sofa sets to my main consignee in the United States who is Rooms to Go. You have to tell me how much that is going to be costing to me, so that I can, in the price, selling the prices from my premises on base of cost and freight Incoterm to my consignee, I have to provide the best price to my consignee, including transportation cost. In this case, the freight forwarder has to screen all the possibilities that he has to ship a container of furniture from Shenzhen to Chicago, let's say. So he has to take to see all the possibilities he has on the water. So how many of the, let's say, 20 carriers serving the trade on the Trans-Pacific, how many carriers there are? What is the best carrier? He has to choose the best pre-carrier, the best trucker from the factory where the furniture are produced to the port of Shenzhen. Then in the United States, let's say, provided that we unload the containers in Oakland or in Los Angeles, then he has to take care of the on-carriage of the container from Los Angeles to Chicago. He has to organize the freight forwarder. He has to organize the customs operations in China and in the United States. He has to provide a tracking and tracing system so that the account can always know where the container with his shipment of furniture is. And then so the freight forwarder gives, okay, I can give you the alternative with China shipping, sailing every week from Shenzhen, going to Los Angeles, and the transit time is 10 days, and then this will cost you X dollars per 40-foot container. So I take, finally, I can have the mandate for shipment of the cargo, Shenzhen to Chicago, but then I am responsible at the eyes of my principal who gave me, the producer of the furniture, of whatever happens in between. So he may, if there is a strike of the railways, if the customs are on strike, if the vessels is deviating somehow or delaying the arrival, my principal will always come to me, freight forwarder, because he will claim, listen, you have told me that the best alternative was this with China shipping going from China to the States, but now you have. So this is what I mean are the very difficult function of the freight forwarder, because he, having accepted a mandate, then on behalf of his account, he is somehow responsible of what is happening. Of course, then if the railways are on strike, I can explain why, but normally the accounts then tend to put the blame on me anyhow. So I would say that in the logistics, the freight forwarding is the most, let's say, complicated function of all the logistics aspects.
Good morning. It has been talked about safety, speed, competitiveness, and sustainability as the four, let's say, main pillars or cornerstones of the transportation and logistics. And that transportation and logistics is not about merely moving goods, because they give an added value to service and products. So the question is, in which proportion is this added value split among this cornerstone at present, more or less?
I don't think I can give you a reply, because it depends on the stretches, because some stretches are longer, depends if you have the short sea or deep sea. I would say anyway that the ocean portion is the least expensive these days. Also because the process of jumboization of, let's say, of gigantic vessels is tended to reduce the cost per TEU progressively. At the beginning of containerization, we can briefly speak about the dimensions of vessels. At the beginning of containerization, a relatively big vessel was accounted to be carrying, to have a capacity of 1,300, 2,000 TEUs. Now, as you well know, there are many ships under constructions for a nominal capacity of 18,000 TEUs, and but there are some projects already for vessels over 20,000, up to 22,000 TEUs capacity, nominal capacity. When we say nominal, because then in such huge vessels, then the weight factor is very important. An 18,000 TEUs vessel is long, overall length is over 400 meters. The width can reach 60 meters, or I think 16 or 7 tiers of containers across. And most important, the problems is now with this vessel is the draft distance from the water to the keel, which in these mega vessels, mega carriers, can reach up to 18 or 19 meters, which will, of course, which is opening the discussion, of course, on the infrastructures, meaning ports, drafts in the ports, but also cranes capable of stretching across 60 meters and picking up a container which may weight up to 40 tons of gross weight, but it also stresses the problem of the infrastructure, because when we have vessels, unloading or loading thousands of TEU containers at each port call, you will need then the infrastructure to stack the containers in the terminals, the port terminals, but then, most important, all the infrastructures to bring the containers to the final destination, which means railways, which means corridors. I think you have been listening to many of these presentations during this week, which means stacking areas, which means all of these problems.
We're going to have many problems in our region with these ships.
We are. It is said that so far, the only port in Europe to have the possibility to berth 20,000 TEUs containers is the newly constructed port in northern Germany. Not even Rotterdam or Amsterdam or Antwerp or Le Havre would have this. So this continuing evolving revolution of the container is also, I would say that whereas up to this years the challenge was on the sea, bigger vessels, now the challenge is on the infrastructures, on the terminals, on the railways, on the inland terminals. You know that now here we have in a couple of years we have the Gotthard, the new tunnels, 57 kilometers across Switzerland to Germany ready, whereas our famous Terzo Valico, we don't know whether Terzo Valico is being discussed from the early 1900s, but I won't see the solution of this. Maybe you will be, because of an age problem.
Yes, UPM, you can talk.
Good morning from Madrid. Do you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good morning. We have seen in your presentation, the logistic chain is a complex one, but don't you think that there is too much actors in this logistic chain? And for example, you talk about MVOCC actor, and for us it seems that this kind of actor is just selling smoke. I mean, they rent space in the ship, and then they resell this space to another one, and maybe they don't care about even the freight they are moving. So don't you think like that there are too many actors in this logistic chain that maybe they don't apport anything? Thank you.
Okay. No, there are definitely many actors, but I think it's a matter of fact that the supply and logistic chains request various types of work, various types of services. So, and also, as said, there are many definitions as far as the stakeholders are concerned, but the same company organization may be acting in turn as either as a second party, as a third party, or a fourth party logistics. But yes, it is complicated, and but I don't think the environment, the transportation logistic environment will be in the future will be simplified, but I think we will see other stakeholders coming up. Concerning the NVOCCs, I don't quite share what you're saying, because they're not actually selling smoke, but they're gambling. They're actually entrepreneurs, because they actually have the risk. They have a big financial risk, because when they buy, they must have definitely made a lot of marketing activities, because if they buy that number of allotments or allocation of spaces aboard vessels from, let's say, a certain part of China to the United States or to Europe, they must be sure that they will resell them and making money on what they are reselling. But this may not be the case, because in the meantime, market conditions may have definitely changed. So they may be in the position that they have, yes, bought allocations and paid for allocations from the ship, from the ocean carrier, from the actual ocean carrier who manages the ships, but that may be a part of what they have bought they cannot resell, or maybe because of changed market condition they may resell them, but at a lower rate that they have bought. I hope I have replied.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
I have just a question about the opti-logistics. So because I think that is the future, like you said before, and what for you, what does the global logistic companies needs for becoming more sustainable?
Last week in the Sustainable Institute at CLEC at Brussels, we have seen, I think, 6 or 7 presentations, both from public and private bodies, showing up how you can trace your emissions, how you can, whether you're doing all the best practices to, if you're either managing a fleet of vessels or a fleet of trucks, whether you're doing that in the best way, employing the best hardware, meaning trucks or engines or whatever, if your logistics in the distribution are optimal. And so there are many ways of, and there are many bodies in this case, independent bodies, offering services to optimize your logistics with the aim of, firstly, reduce emissions, and of course, secondly, reducing costs.
Yes, this is the reason for becoming sustainable. Mm-hmm. But I'd like to know if how the global logistic company can become. So, I mean, they must change, for example, the technology of the trucks, for example.
This is one of the cases, or maybe make consolidate more cargoes, make better operations. Much of this activity is put on the hardware, on the emissions. There is a big discussion in Brussels about the sulfur emissions of the vessels, meaning this how to buy also more refined oil and gas oil, and there are many ways. I'm not a specialist of that. This is something I've been facing very recently, and I must admit that I wasn't aware of the importance of this concept, but I would say that is very fascinating. And as you said, it's also one of the future concepts everybody, not only in transportation, will have to deal with, definitely. Okay, anyway, I hope I have somehow transferred to you some knowledge. I know that it may be difficult. I am available anyway to contact you. I mean, you have any type of further information you may need, I will be delighted. I have a website. You can my personal website where you have all the contact.
We didn't ask we didn't want to make any more questions. Thank you.
Okay.
So.
Entonces, hasta pronto. Va bene? Break. Grazie.
come dire, che il tempo prima dell'evento, una grande evoluzione. Molto bene, solo che in Portuale, quando io ho iniziato erano 10.000, adesso sono 996. Ma anche i ingegneri ormai si fa tantissimo online, negli Stati Uniti, oltre ai ingegneri i nostri negli Stati Uniti, da New York fanno online tutto il clearing di tutti gli Stati Uniti. Non vedono, no. Il dubbio è quello che dire qualcosa al territorio che però poi c'è di genere ci vediamo anche un po' con di cuore, cioè no, a parte questo, ma uno dice che poi diventa paradossalmente non questo è un byproduct della globalizzazione, della localizzazione, che andrà tutto, c'è nato solo, ma certo vale che ma la tendenza è di fare poi sicuramente Merlo non viene oggi, ma allora, l'eterna diatriba adesso allora sono porti magazzini e porti corridoio, ormai col fatto della containerizzazione devono diventare più forti per questo. I contenitori devono spararsi fuori, cioè adesso dovrebbero essere al massimo i contenitori in 48 ore dovrebbero essere via. E beh, adesso la legge 8494 che sembrava che anche lì sono andato più come faccio sempre tedeschi, inglesi, olandesi, belgi e francesi. E ti dico, allora la legge a settembre gli avevo detto no ma ci siamo, perché è passata la Camera, poi ero stato a sentire il nuovo port package di Callas che da 2 giorni doveva fare nel 2020, cioè loro vorrebbero unificare l'Unione Europea, Rotterdam a Palermo, no? Sarà duro. E io gli avevo detto 25, nel merito no, 4, ci siamo quasi, cominciamo un primo step a lasciare un percentuale no, di IVA localmente, così clamorosamente è un po' critica del in casa, avere un collino, non si guadagna niente, no, ormai io mi ricordo, allora, quando ho cercato di, allora, quando avevamo allora, nell'anno 2017, tutto il record di questo perché potevamo rendere per conferenze di caricatori con gli amatori 5.000 netto vari al mese, 1.200.000. Adesso non muove tutta l'Italia, che significa che ormai si cambiare tutti le regolazioni. Però poi ci sono anche tutte cose negative, invece centinaia di migliaia di contenitori, tanto Stefano Magno, che fa schifo a vederli, poi come le faccio? loro erano dei grey box. Allora, fare, se poi non ho mai fatto gli armatori per i gestori marittimi, perché sono essenzialmente di mare. Uguali, dei pezzi di ferro, tutti grigi, poi gli automobili hanno letto, no? Tramolo lì, il prossimo niente, per cui poi c'è l'antico, c'è tanti contenuti da fare, c'è il
con la data questa mattina farei uno del tempo.
Allora, uno è due e poi aspetta, c'è ancora uno
poi
che
hai questo qua.
Ah, no, allora diciamo che l'ammortamento finanziario di un imprenditore poi fa maintenance, poi fanno le mentre invece una cavola cassa di piastrelle arrivava là, poi la buttavo eccetera, ma dopo 40 kg che marcisci la parte del conto, il mondo c'erano sui 40 kg tecnologicamente se non andiamo nel fascia recruitment eccetera, no? No, io spero di aver io faccio un po' il mio però diceva prima l'altro ragazzo che era della parte del mandato può diventare proprietario veramente, però no, però
Da, prima
un trailer prendo una parte di questo carico oppure 2 o 3 contenitori quindi non è magazzinario no, è proprio dopo un trasloco è un transito è un interscambio di merce come lo ship particolare molto più piccolo leggero riutilizzabile però ha necessità di un terreno elevatore di un terreno Qua abbiamo l'audio esterno,
Tanto si canta questa cosa, ma non le presentazioni. Quindi tanto si canta questa cosa.
Come funziona?
Che presentazione hai?
Che senso?
Allora,
Per muoverla?
per muoverti tu hai il mouse e ti muovi sul mouse.
Ma poi il mouse lo posso usare per puntare la presentazione o no?
Sì. Assolutamente. In pratica la presentazione te la carichi io, la carichi da qua. In questo modo stai condividendo tutto quello che so, quindi qualsiasi cosa che prendi da qua la condividi con tutti quanti. La tua presentazione qua. Ah no, questo è quello che ti dà il simbolo del condiviso.
Quale?
E quindi vai qua e carica questa mattina e te la facci. Diciamo che è questa qua.
No, quella non è la prima.
Esatto, e va avanti, ok? Finisce la presentazione, esci dalla presentazione completamente e esci dallo schermo condiviso.
Ah, per ricaricare un'altra devo uscire?
No, se lo fai una dietro l'altra no, ma metti che non so, vuoi fare le domande, vuoi parlare, torni qua.
Vabbè, comunque tu sei qua. Ma volevo capire se mi sembra abbastanza facile.
No, è una scemata, l'unica cosa è tipo adesso il fatto che se tu vuoi, perché in pratica cliccando qua tu potresti vedere, prima non mi piaceva,
Vedi gli altri.
In canta, vedi gli altri, ti fanno una domanda è carina farli vedere anche chi sta facendo la domanda.
Chi c'è lì?
Per adesso c'è la
Claudia?
Spagna. Claudia è una delle e questa è la Grecia, però è uno, ieri sto qua seguiva con un iPhone.
Perché è uno, non è il coach, è una persona.
Scusami, non dovrei trovare il materiale caricato, ah, quindi non ce n'è nessuno? Ah, ok, vedi.
Da solo non ci va.
Grazie, ieri sono impazzita.
Per la grazia divina non ci arriva. Se qualcuno me lo mandi e noi lo carichiamo.
Stavo girando allora si
Anche
sta
il nostro,
ricontati.
quindi qua ne abbiamo lunedì prossimo, martedì, in qualche modo.
Io ce lo ti posso mettere.
O mettile sull'LMS, non me le prendo lì, no? No, mettile sull'LMS che è la cosa migliore, io poi le prendo di lì.
Perché sennò io presento quello ero fatto un
Adesso ci sono sull'LMS anche quelle dei cosi, dei tedeschi, quindi adesso io lunedì, martedì qualcuno dei miei, ora sono un po' in casino, diciamo, uno dei prossimi giorni quelle delle due.
Se li vuoi in tempi brevi, io ce l'ho sul Dropbox, aggiungo il tuo indirizzo e te li prendi.
Non lo so, perché sono Dropbox io non so se vedete per farlo funzionare. No, però comunque sull'LMS devi prima o poi mettere, quindi una volta che sono
sull'LMS... devo prima per capire.
Una volta che sono sull'LMS, me le prendo.
Perché ieri, prima di mandare all'ora, ho detto, vabbè, vado, basta vedere dov'è, perché se qualcuno mi chiede dove andare a vedere, e non le trovavo. Io pensavo che i tedeschi almeno l'avessero messo.
Ma guarda, l'hanno messe quando il greco ha chiesto dove erano, ce l'hanno messo perché non l'hanno messo con la dimensione. Se proprio ci tieni.
Deve fare anche domande difficili. Ah,
Se proprio ci tieni.
sto salutando
Ah, salutano, cari saluti.
tante belle cose.
Belle cose appena partite. Eccomi, ciao. Mm. Beh, io per le 2 arrivo, eh. Io per le 2 arrivo, Anzi, anche per prima, Dai, diciamo che dalle 2 Ah, no, scusa, credevo bene. Allora, digli che vai da... Allora, digli a Picariello che tu puoi dalle 2 alle 3 massimo, e alle 3 e mezza, perché anche tu alle 3 e mezza sei da noi. Che c'è un casino di roba da fare, sì, deve essere iper sotto controllo nei prossimi due settimane, perché abbiamo 2 settimane e 2 giorni, quindi le cose si stanno pian pianino chiarendo e definendo, però quindi o gli dice a Picariello che poi alle 2, oppure certo non puoi andare avanti così. Ok, a dopo.
Guarda, sai che ce ne verranno tanti.
Il documento di lunedì di 24 ce l'hai visto? Sì, tutte le hai.
Ascoltami, pensavo a farti al telefono. Dimmi.
Puoi mandare al volo il documento, quello la presentazione di 24 giorni? Servirebbe.
C'era mattina o pomeriggio, ti ricordi? Mattina o pomeriggio? Questa, giusto?
No, quella di Mod 24. No, quella di la presentazione di Mod 24. Abbiamo fatto al mattino. Perché c'è una presentazione di Mod 24? Trova un po'... non è nessuna di quelle. Cioè, di dire Mod 24 niente, quella di Maurizio Ricci non te l'è andata.
C'era Angel
la mia.
mattina, quindi ha caricato lui. Però direi che l'ha caricato tutto qua.
No, quella lì di Giuseppe.
No.
Di Giuseppe, forse quella dopo anche. A suonare. Guarda un po' se l'ha messa al pomeriggio. Per me? No. Lui mi offende Robin.
Guarda se sta le pratiche.
No,
No, ma è impossibile.
qui non c'è niente. Questo pomeriggio trasadato con i dettagli per
No, guarda, andiamo. Tu ti siedi dove?
anche pensarsi giù con
No, ma in realtà quando va la tu, loro vedono quello che tu vedi tu. Quindi quando va sotto la presentazione tu puoi girare. No, quando va la presentazione tu puoi girare e poi se vuoi. Se vuoi girare usi il microfono, lo accendi così.
Io prima. Iniziamo? Iniziamo? Sono tutti qui. Okay, we can start again. Good morning again. My name is Alexio Picco. I'm going to talk about this morning to, let's say, introduce you the complexity of how the complexity of the world that has been illustrated by Luca is reflected in the technology side. So I know that you are not coming all from not all from technical background courses in university. So for sure, I'm not going into really technical details, but the scope I have tomorrow is to let you understand that how the technology is applied in a different modes of transport and how it is effectively applied or not, and what are the main issues around the technology development in transport. We have here also some other experts, not than me, because I see in also Bruno, that is a colleague working in Selex Elsac, that is another IT transport expert. So it's good to have also him later on expressing his views on some issues. And another guy that has moved now for a coffee, that's Paolo Scarpellini, that you will hear later on in the afternoon. That again is working for the Port Authority of Livorno, but is a very well expert guy in this field. So a few words about myself. I am now working for a company called Circle, that is a small company dealing with consultancy and technology, specifically in European projects in transport and in technology. And my background is mainly in technology and transport. I'm a transport engineer, and I've been working in the last 17 years in information technology for transport mainly. Both in the public and in the private sector, in big companies, small company, consultant companies. So I've been dealing with different contexts, different environment, and so I have a good experience on that. And also, my first part of my professional career was mainly in passenger and transport, in urban mobility, namely. And later on, for professional reasons, I moved back because in reality my thesis was about transport of goods. So I moved back to goods. That is a and to freight. That is very, very interesting, challenging, and fascinating world. Probably more than passengers, more complicated than passenger, definitely more complicated, because there are definitely more actors involved. It's the overall chain is not very well defined. It's changing, is moving, as very well described by Luca before. So that's a very fascinating world. So the idea today is that I would like to briefly introduce you to technologies on one side and terminology on another side, because several technologies, basic technologies, are applied in different domains in different ways, using
different terminology, but at the end, the very basic pillars of the technology are all the same. And then just a few words about how these technologies are applied and which systems are mainly in development, or they are already on a mature stage in the market and in the world. And later on, I have two examples of projects to show you. One is that you have heard about it, if I remember well, Monday morning. It is about the interoperability of IT systems in the maritime and logistics side. It is called Miele. And the other one is a very concrete example about how the technology can be used in the logistic chain, and the project is called Tiger, and it is a project dealing with a concept that is named the so-called Genofast corridor. But okay, I will later on explain you what has been done in this project. It's a very concrete example of applying the technology in this field. So we can move to terminology. First of all, there are different set of technologies, systems, and services that can be applied in transport, and they have, say, an overall terminology behind. So one of the acronym that is most used and well known in this field is ITS, Intelligent Transport Systems. It is an acronym mainly born in USA many years ago, because USA has been, and probably it is still, but has been substantially more advanced than Europe in this respect. So it's no. It's the other way. So ITS is it means Intelligent Transport Systems. So you mean Intelligent Transport Systems, transport for all modes. That is not true, because in reality, Intelligent Transport Systems means mainly road systems. Later on, there are different. I have chosen a classification of ITS, but mainly ITS is road. It's not dealing with rail. It's not dealing with air or maritime. It's mainly road. Then you have all the E something, and starting from the maritime side, we have the framework that is called e-maritime. That's the application of technology mainly in the maritime world. Freight is covering, e-freight is covering mainly logistics, where logistics is all the door-to-door logistic chain. So sometimes it's in parallel with others, because the logistic chain is covering road, rail, is multimodal by definition. So e-freight is covering more or less all modes. There is a very specific something that is the e-customs world, and it is very specific just because I think that Luca also explained a bit this, that customs, at least for me, is the most complex word I've ever seen, really. And boring, sure, but really, it's something unbelievable. I think, I don't know if Luca shares this view with me, but I think that is really something that came from history, you know, from the power that customs had in history, you know, the power to put taxes on trade, to decide on goods moving, and this is still living. All the customs.
And in Italy is one of the main bottlenecks, the infrastructure bottlenecks and non-infrastructure, but this is
really, and but it's not only in Italy. Just to give you an example of that, we have a cooperation with South Korea that has been mentioned also on Monday, on a logistic information sharing between South Korea and Italy for the containers moved in between the two countries. And these systems that we are piloting this year is mainly for logistics information, so tracking and tracing of container. And when we were in South Korea a few months ago, we were discussing with the Ministry of Transport, with all high-level people there and technology company and so on and so on. And we put on the table one thing. We told them, okay, listen, this is logistic sharing information are very important, but a very step further for the improvement of the processes can be to speed up custom procedure. So it could be very nice if later on around the table also the Korean custom can be at the table to discuss with others, and the general manager or directorate for transport in Korea say, oh no, this is very no customs, they are too complicated. So yeah, it's the same. It's the same, exactly. It's the other way around. And take into account that Korea is, I think, far the most advanced in terms of the technologies we are discussing this morning. And in freight, in e-logistics, they are definitely the more advanced because they, let's say, imposed to all the actors to have such kind of system. So they are controlling everything, and they have a very comprehensive system. And also for them, customs is something very difficult to be treated. Then there are also other modes that are more really specific and a bit more close to the others. Rail is one of that. In terms of technologies, rail has very, very specific technologies. And talking about this kind of technologies, they have the traffic management system for rail that is called ERMTS. And nothing more than that in terms of exchanging information with the others. It's still a very closed world, rail. It's very difficult to work with rail, also for historical reasons. They're the same, because they were very big companies, monopoly, very big companies. So they are changing for sure. Many years ago, there was the separation between who is managing the infrastructures. In Italy, for instance, RFI, and who is dealing with the train operation in Italy or others. So, but they are still progressing, but they are still big and not easy to be treated. Then, okay, there is air. Air is easy because it's more mainly dealing with air traffic management control and the interoperability of these systems, but they are, again, a bit closer world. So coming to some definitions of and some systems in ITS. As I told you before, ITS is mainly road, and you see also in this picture where the other modes are into, but they are treated as, okay, interoperability in between modes, but most of the systems and most of the services dealing with ITS are road related and urban mobility, highways, and obviously due to the fact that also that on the road there are trucks that are logistically speaking part of our environment. For sure there are interconnections with that, but these are mainly road. I have chosen one of the definition. There are many, but and the classification of different systems, there are many, but they are more or less close to each other, because globally speaking, ITS is the most advanced technology world in transport, more than in freight, more than in customs, more than in maritime. There are several reasons for that, and one important thing is that that show this progress in ITS is that the terminology can vary a bit between, I've chosen a USA terminology classification, but can vary a bit, only a bit between USA, Japan, and Italy. But in ITS, when you talk, for instance, about a variable message sign, that it's what you see in the highways, in the city, all around the world, okay, it's clear what it is, what are the main specification for that. This is not true for the rest of the systems we are going to see later on, specifically in in the maritime domain, where also the terminology and it's quite not established, and so it means that when you say something, a specific acronym, it might mean different things, complicating a lot the comprehension of the system itself. The overall goal of ITS for sure are namely to improve safety, to reduce congestion, and to reduce pollution, at the same time increase energy efficiency. This is clear. They are the very high-level objective of the system. So just to have one classification, one type of ITS can be called advanced traffic management systems, and they are mainly dealing with traffic management control. One example of that are the urban traffic control. In each city, medium or large city, they have a so-called UTC, urban traffic control, where different systems are used, sometimes integrated, some better and better integrated, sometimes still not so far integrated. For instance, traffic light management, coordinated traffic light management, variable message sign management in terms of automatic messages that can show how much the traffic is in certain roads part of the city. Video cameras as well, big panels with all the situation of the traffic in the city. And there are really several differences, but the main scope of is real-time traffic management and control. It means see what is the traffic and possibly react. Even if I may say that control is easy, react is definitely more complicated, definitely. Just to give you an example of that, to be a bit more concrete, Genoa has a very, my perspective, a very good urban traffic control center. Specifically, many years ago, at least it was a decade ago, across 2000, in Genoa we have developed one system that at that time was really one of the few in the world. Is that now it's used everywhere. You know very well now the system of Google Traffic. Yeah? Google Traffic is based on the speed of the vehicles that are monitored with a specific onboard unit with a GPS that knows where the vehicles are, and knowing the speed and so on, you can understand how the fluidity of traffic. And this is something in 2014 very common and very, very, very well known. But 15 years ago it was not, obviously. And in Genoa we used for the first time in the world the speed of the bus in order to derive the status of the traffic. The same concept but applied to the bus. 15 years ago, half of the fleet of the buses in Genoa was already equipped with a fleet management system, so we were able to show this information also in the traffic management control with a big panel with the map of the city with different colors, like you see in Google Traffic now. It's more or less the same. So the first category is advanced traffic management system. The second one is the other side of the game, is the travel information system. Obviously, the two systems are connected because you can give travel information if you know the status of the traffic, and you can understand quite well how much these services have been improved in the last decade. And this is due to two things. First, obviously, the technology development that now make accessible a lot of information on mobile phones, laptop, and smartphone and whatever. And it was not the case, obviously, many years ago. But also the development of the market itself. I was in this field 15 years ago, and there was a lot of discussion about how to deliver traffic and travel information using future geolocated maps and so on, but obviously no one were able to look in what happened in terms of mainly a single actor in the world acting as a key player, as Google is. We were discussing so many years about standard, interconnection of data, how to exchange format of the data in terms of standardization. At a certain point, now there is a de facto standard. What Google is using now is a standard because not because de jure there is a law or an agreement between actors to do that, but because for market reason, the way in which these data are exchanged is now a standard. Another type of ITS, they are the so-called advanced vehicle control and safety systems. This is mainly on board. There have been a lot of improvements in the last decade about vehicle control and safety, and step by step, the technology that 10 years ago was only in the very high level cars in terms of costs. They are more or less also in the low level side now, and many are coming. I've been working a lot in evaluating research projects also in on-board systems in the last 5 years, and there are a lot of new technologies that are coming in terms of let's say, give you an example. One of the technologies that is very used in USA is the so-called advanced lane departure warning, LDW. It means that specifically they have big highways, very straightforward, very large in terms of number of roads and so on. And there is the problem that you can be distracted or be tired and you go in the other direction. And there is a specific system that alerts you if you are departing from the lane in which you are automatically. This is one example. Another example that you see also already in Europe is the distance with the car in front and so on. So this is mainly in-car technology, and obviously all these improvements are led by the car manufacturers that are working a lot of that. Also for some of them together, not competing, but for some of them also for the basic things together. And one important thing is that in the evolution of ITS is that they were separate systems mainly. Now there is the main paradigm in ITS is cooperative systems. It means vehicle to vehicle, vehicle to infrastructure, infrastructure to infrastructure communication. It's a more comprehensive approach that is also achievable for the advancement of technology and the basic technology. Then there is the public transport side, in which I was involved a lot in the past, and the same technology are applied to public transport. I may say that also 10 years ago there were advanced public transport fleet management systems already, and so the improvement in the last decade in this respect is not so much. Also 10 years ago were very effective, and obviously you have personalized public transport information, security on board. One typical example of ITS that it is not mentioned here because in USA is not so many well developed is the flexible services demand on bus on demand, typically, or flexible taxi or collective taxi. This is something in which I'm proud to say that Genoa was leading this 10 years ago in Europe, because we were one of the first city in Europe to have such kind of bus on demand in a city, not in a urban, in a rural area, not in a dispersed area. So the systems that are, the services that are already working, they are still working after. The first one has been launched in 2002, if I remember well, and then other one in 2004. And they are again an example of combination of fleet management and other technologies that are quite useful and helpful in having flexible services really dressed in a way and or operated in a way that suit the request of the users. I think you are all from Genoa, so who knows the Dreambus system? Do you know? So you know. So I was the guy that invented this system, so this is why I'm proud of. That's the reason why I told you so. Okay. Obviously, there are also some commercial vehicle operation in ITS, and this is coming closer to our logistic and maritime world. So we'll tell you later, because this is more coming to e-freight, to the e-freight side. So this is more or less everything in terms of classification of ITS. Before going on, I would like to ask you if you have some specific questions on ITS. Then I go to other domain. Do you have any specific questions on ITS, Bruno? Io di... Sono sotto, sono tutti, sono 8 cadaveri sotto. No, perché questo perché in Spagna a quest'ora fanno la seconda colazione, no, pranzano alle 3. No? Ma sono tutti amici, sono tutti amici, non è che lo sanno benissimo, non è che... No, è vero, a quest'ora non è una balla, fanno la seconda colazione a quest'ora e mangiano alle 3. Ma vabbè, è ancora peggio, peggio Barcellona di Madrid. Niente. Cos'è? Te l'ho detto. No, it's second breakfast. Lunch is... No, lo dico in inglese. Ma tante parte che capiscono bene anche l'italiano, però. I was in Barcelona 2 weeks ago and we went to a restaurant that they told me that it's very famous, good restaurant, and it was 2 o'clock. No one there, so the best restaurant, 2 o'clock is no one there. At the end of the lunch at 4 o'clock it was full of people. It's incredible. They are very on the other side.